Ryan Grant, Beast Mode Ballet, says 5x5. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. S. Vans in the chat says, I'm getting married on Sunday. Any advice? Oh, boy. Didn't know we were going to open the show with some Q&A, but here we go. Yeah. Lots. First of all, congratulations. That's awesome. Second, where do I want to go? Hold on. Let's keep a finger here in the Word, in that part of the Word. Let's go over here into the New Testamente, the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. That's Thessalonians. I don't think you want to go to Thessalonians. Ephesians. Here we are. Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5. Real quick. All right. So we go to Ephesians 5:22. Wives, subject yourself to your own husbands so as to the master. Yup. But that statement does not exist in a vacuum. It is oftentimes just plucked out of Ephesians chapter 5 as if it's a standalone statement. The whole point of Ephesians chapter 5 is the compare-contrast between Messiah and his bride, the church, which in the New Testament is the word ecclesia, which means members of the body. The church does not mean hierarchy or liturgy or canon or doctrine and dogma or building. In fact, the first century Christians would have been really confused if you said, I'm going to church, because the church, ecclesia, used 78 times in the New Testament, means the body of Messiah. So, this relationship, this spiritual, vertical, heavenly relationship between Messiah and his bride is supposed to be reflected between a husband and his bride. And so, when it says in verse 22, wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as to the master, then we go to 23, because the husband is the head of the wife, as also Messiah is the head of the assembly, and he is Savior of the body, the ecclesia, the church. But as the assembly is subject to Messiah, so also let the wives be to their own husbands in every respect. Husbands, love your wives as Messiah also did love the assembly and gave himself for it, in order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word, in order to present it to himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. In this way, husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but feeds and cherishes it, as also the master does the assembly, because we are members of his body, and of his flesh and of his bones. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The secret is great, but I speak concerning Messiah and the assembly. Meaning, this great secret, what's the point that Paul's talking here, Shaul of Tarsus is talking about here in Ephesians chapter 5? He's talking about this model that a covenant relationship here on earth should reflect the heavenly covenant relationship that we have between us and Messiah. So, Messiah died for his bride, gave himself fully for his bride, protects, provides for, blesses his bride. Exodus chapter 21, it's all basic stuff. And so a wife should be in submission to her husband, meaning what? Headship, leadership, stewardship, right? And submission, men, does not mean domination or dominion. You don't put your wife under your thumb. You put her underneath your arm, and you cover her, and you walk alongside of one another together, because that's your rib. You're inseparable from her, and she is your weaker vessel and your wise counsel, but that doesn't make her weak. So, honor one another is the point here. Die to yourselves daily. Take your ego and your hubris and your pride out of the relationship. And when you look at each other, especially when you're maybe not pleased with one another, a great reminder is Messiah died for them too. And yeah, they are imperfect, but so am I. So am I. So we're just two busted up sinners covered up by the blood of Messiah, doing the best that we can to reflect this relationship here physically to our left and to our right, left-right relationships, reflect our relationship vertically with the Most High. And I'll give you a real quick diagnostic tool from a pastoral standpoint. Anytime somebody comes to me with relationship troubles, the physical relationship troubles that they're having are reflections of the spiritual relationship troubles that they may not even know that they have. So our physical relationships here on earth model, almost they project themselves here. They're a projection of our spiritual relationship, which is great because it then becomes a diagnostic tool. So wives tend to submit, air quotes here, to their husbands to the same degree that the husband submits to Messiah. And so the more the husband is led by the Spirit and taught by Messiah and walking in the ways of the Most High, the more the wife is pleased and honored to be walking alongside her husband. And gentlemen, this is a complex thing for us to consider, because we men don't have much of a map sheet for what it looks like to be a bride. But our maker is our husband, right? Like, read the Bible. Okay, cool. We are betrothed to Messiah. Awesome. And so because we're betrothed to Messiah, we're supposed to walk under his wing while our wife walks underneath our wing for provision, protection, and blessing, not for dominion. You don't get to rule over her. Your father-in-law is the creator of the universe. He knew her first. He made her in his image. And you are to steward her. It is a blessing that you have the opportunity to raise up one of the daughters of the Most High. And you should cherish her for that and be honored by the opportunity and take it really seriously. And wives, your husband is not just some guy. That is a son of the Most High, a king and a priest, whether he knows it or not. And maybe you need to build him up and help and pray for him and help him be trained up in that by encouraging community with other strong men of Elohim, strong men of God, so that he can live up to the biblical expectation and inheritance of a king and a priest by the blood of Messiah. And so treat each other with love, give each other tons and tons and tons of grace, and understand that your physical relationship is a reflection of your spiritual relationship. And it always has been, and it always will be. So, hey, when it comes to audio, I want you guys to know I have the audio up as high as it will possibly go on my end. It's a systemic YouTube issue that's affecting multiple channels, hundreds, thousands of channels. It's not just me. I've done a little bit of digging on this, even though you guys know how I feel about audio. Complaining about audio in the chat is possibly will get you banned here, because there's nothing I can do about it. I have the gain all the way up on this microphone. I have the output through OBS all the way up. This is what we got. If it's not coming through on your end, there's literally nothing I can do about it on my end, because it's a systemic YouTube issue. It's not just me. So, moving right along. There is only one king. Let's see what the mainstream media wants us to think about today. From RT.com, Russia Today. Trump shares fawning texts from NATO chief Marut. Used block capitals and praised the U.S. leader for his extraordinary action against Iran. Or did he? U.S. President Donald Trump has posted screenshots of private text messages from NATO Secretary General Marut, in which the former Dutch Prime Minister aped Trump's writing style and showered the American leader with praise for decisive action in Iran. Blah, blah, blah. Quote, "Congratulations and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary and something no one else dared to do. It makes us all safer," Rutte wrote. Rutte is backing Trump's controversial demands that NATO members more than double their military spending to 5% of GDP. And so, like, what's the point of all this? Now, this is coming from Russia today. Russia has viewed NATO in many cases as an existential threat since roughly the end of the not the end of the Cold War, since roughly the beginning of the Cold War, the end of World War II. So, what's the big deal here? Russia today, which is state-run propaganda, and all of these rags are state-run propaganda, is saying words to the effect of NATO is going to double its spending. That's going to double the existential crisis that NATO presents to Russia. Remember, one of the reasons that Russia has said that they had to go into Ukraine was because they didn't want NATO on their doorstep. They want Ukraine as a buffer zone. Although now, once again, Vladimir Putin is rolling out this line of talk saying that all of Ukraine is Russia because all those people are ethnic Russians and speak Russian. Okay, well, if you take all of Ukraine, then NATO's literally on your doorstep. Poland's right there, bro. And the Poles are just waiting to get some carbon built up around their bulk carrier group. Like they're there. They can't wait. All right. But the pretext here is that Marut texted Trump, "What a good job. You've done such a good job. Quote, you will achieve something no American president in decades could get done," end quote. And so then here's some of these text messages that are on the screen. Okay. Here's the challenge with this. Number one, you ever text anyone? So if let's just see, if I save this image, Ruta. Let's go ahead and open this image if we can in real time. Open file. Come on, RAM, do the thing. All right, let's zoom in. Okay. So, Mark Rutte, look up here. This is not a real photo. Okay? Mr. President, dear Donald, quote, look at this. So look across the top here. MR, Mark Rutte. All right, and then I want you to come down here. You are flying into another big success in The Hague this evening, blah, blah, blah. Donald, you've driven us to a really, really important moment, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then down here, he signed his name. He signed his name even though Trump already has him in his contact list. Dash Mark Rutte. Nobody does that. You don't do that. I don't do that. Fripp, when was the last time you texted somebody that was in your contacts in your phone and you felt the need to put dash Fripp at the end of it?
Not never.
Not never. Okay. All right. So this doesn't pass the smell test. This was doctored up. And I want to show you another thing here. All right. So let's go over here to Newsweek. You remember in between Trump's first and second presidency, there was a lot of legal action taken against him. There's a dude named Cohen that was one of his attorneys who now hates his guts. But Cohen testified that Trump, as far as evidence that could be presented in these court cases, that Trump did not send emails nor text messages because he viewed them as the equivalent of written documents that could be subpoenaed and that would therefore leave a paper trail. So, from Newsweek, former President Donald Trump's communication has been at the center of several. This article's from the interim, in between these first and second presidencies. This comes from May 10th, 2022, so a little over 3 years ago. Former President Donald Trump's communication has been at the center of several court cases and investigations, but he's arguing that there's little else that he can provide, in part because he doesn't use text messaging. Quote, doesn't email, doesn't text, end quote. Jason Miller, Getter CEO and Trump's former campaign spokesperson, told Newsweek. A longtime aide to the former president, Miller served on both of Trump's presidential campaigns and on his transition team, blah, 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 blah. Although it may be possible that Trump has sent or received a text message, he's sworn in an affidavit that if he's used texting, Trump has, it's been the rare exception for more than 10 years. Since at least January 1st, 2010, it has been my customary practice not to communicate via email, text message, or other digital methods of communication, Trump wrote in a recent affidavit. Continuing, quote, Trump does not email, he does not text message, and he has no work computer at home or anywhere else. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Oh, but look, here's all these text messages from Marut to Donald Trump. They're not real. This is photoshopped and not well. Now, there's been a few articles, little blips on the radar here and there over the years that when somebody wants to electronically communicate with President Trump, that they will text one of his aides or email one of his aides, not directly to Trump, because he does not communicate that way. Trump is an old school businessman. He likes to get face to face with people, shake their hands. We've all seen the famous Trump handshake. He grabs you and pulls you towards you, squeezes, jerks your arm. All that's a power move. I mean, how much of that have we heard about, especially since his first campaign? The red tie and the handshake, it's a power move. Like, remember all these little dog whistles here. And he likes to call people. You know, there's myriad reports of it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning and Trump will be up in the Oval Office, pick up the phone and just call people. But he doesn't electronically message. Why do we even care? Because this is a perfect illustration of the manufactured narrative that they want us to swallow. Just look at the screen. These are not real text messages. Every one of you here has texted somebody, maybe, probably even today. We know what text messages look like. They don't look like that. This is bad work. Whoever did this was bad work. Now, who did this? Did Trump do this? It says that it was posted by real Donald Trump. Or did a Trump aide do this? Or just because up here in the top left corner it says Donald Trump, at real Donald Trump? Or did RT do this? Or did Mossad do this? Or the CIA? Who knows? Who knows? But it's garbage work. Whoever did this, minimum slap on the wrist. Because, from Newsweek, sworn affidavit from Trump's mouth himself, he doesn't text people. Since at least January 1st, 2010, it has been my customary practice to not communicate via email, text message, or other digital methods of communication, Trump wrote in a recent affidavit. Now, but that begs the question, who's posting on Truth Social, and how's he posting on Truth Social?
Yep.
I don't know, but I can tell you this, these are make-believe text messages. This is not real. So, moving along. China has responded. You know what? I want to pause here for a minute. This is a manufactured lie. Okay? What's here in RT? Maybe, is it possible that these text messages did come in, and rather than taking actual screenshots of the president's phone because of the digital exhaust that would be included in that and then posting that to social, those actual screenshots were sent over to the White House photo lab where they made up these screenshots, and maybe it is one-to-one. We'll never know. It comes to the character of the man. This morning, shifting gears, this morning, we have a dear brother in our assembly who has been convicting us for a couple of months now, us as an assembly, to please try and clean up our language, especially when assembled in the name of Yahuwah, when we're at church, right? And there's a lot of validity to that request. Hey, we're assembled in the name of God. Could we, like, maybe not just have filth pouring out of our mouth? It's like, yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. You're right. Let's work on that. And for my whole life, I've had people tell me, hey, watch your language, clean it up. I'm like, yep. And depending on the day and my level of sleep deprivation and the last time I ate and 1,000 other factors in the flesh. I'm somewhere between decent and really bad at watching my language. You guys know this. You've been here forever, right? But we're trying. For the first time ever in my life, this talk that I had with this brother 2 months ago, there was a conviction there in the spirit. It wasn't just words from another person. There was a conviction there in the spirit. And so I'm warts and all, just truth in advertising. Yeah, there have been times, without meaning to, trying to, being egregious, when we're gathered in assembly, where adult language has been used because we're a bunch of adults. But I get it. Like, hey, let's not do that. Sure, yeah, that's a worthy goal to work towards, 100%. And that same brother posted in the group chat this morning, man, words to the effect of like, man, look, here's President Trump now throwing F-bombs. Yup. And so, rightly dividing between, here's the challenge, rightly dividing between somebody who is of unclean lips. I mean, even Isaiah said to the creator of the universe, but Master, I am of unclean lips. I get it. I get it. It would be kind of like, to me, if somebody said, you know, go to Washington, D.C. and talk to these people. Well, it turns out in Washington, D.C., the language that I have is minimal compared to the language that they have, right? Or go speak at this pastoral conference. There'll be 3,000 pastors from all over the world in attendance. Okay, I'm going to have to work really hard on policing my language because I'm me, for better or worse, and sometimes the F-bombs just slip right out.
In the Marine Corps, we couldn't finish a sentence saying F word 4 times in
Yeah.
one sentence.
In
That's how we speak to each other.
100%. But Medic Mike just walked over and said in the Marine Corps, you can't finish a sentence without using the F word at least 4 times because that's just how we speak to each other. Right. But then also, like, context is key. Where are we? When I go talk to Grandma, when we go to dinner at Grandma's house, it's like there's no language. You know, heckin' tomfoolery might come out of my mouth. We're in oh tiddlywinks mode, you know? And so, like, know your audience. But I bring this up because we should not be surprised at Trump's use of common language.
He's also pissed.
Well, yeah, he was pissed off. He was very upset. Let's not even use the word pissed. He was very upset. Very upset. Reasonably so. But this is the same guy that said, grab him by the what? This is the same guy that said, oh, I've known Jeffrey a long time. He's a good guy. He really likes those young girls. Okay, this is the same guy. Same guy. For better or worse, it's the same guy. And Messiah tells us, Matthew 12, you will know them by their fruits. Okay? And that bad fruit doesn't come from a good tree, and good fruit doesn't come from a bad tree. And so a lot of times we want to look at the tree and say, well, I know the fruit is bad, but that's a good tree. Sometimes, you know, do not take the Lord's name in vain. People will even hang the Father's name on a bad tree and say, well, because it's got the Father's name hung on it, it must be a good tree. Now, if we're to be fruit inspectors, and we are, Messiah tells us to be, when you look at the fruit of that tree, say I got a peach tree, right? Moving to the country, going to eat a lot of peaches. Peaches come in a can. They were put there by a man in a factory downtown. If I had my little way, I'd eat peaches every day. Be eating peaches in the shade. Yeah, exactly, right? So I got this peach tree, and I'm looking at it, and there's 100 peaches on this tree. If one of them's rotten, or a few of them's rotten, maybe there's, you know, worms, bugs, whatever, you know, a little birdie got into it, drilled a hole in it, the peach is going bad. That's to be expected. But overall, it's a good tree with good fruit, right? The best trees with the best fruit are gonna have a piece or two hanging there, rotten. That's a good tree. Do we cut that tree down and burn it because out of 100 peaches hanging on it, one of them's bad, two of them's bad, 5 of them are bad? How much of the harvest has to be bad before we cut the tree down and burn it in the fire? Conversely, we all know what a dead fruit tree looks like. Instinctively. You might be living in, New York City or LA or Minneapolis right now, Miami. You've never seen a peach tree in your life. But if I was to show you a dead peach tree, you would instinctively know, oh, that one's no good. Yeah, it doesn't look very healthy. It's not producing any fruit. Why do we cut down the bad fruit tree? Because if it's got insects in it, if it's rotten, if it has a blight, and I have an orchard full of peach trees and I don't take care of this one bad one, if I don't remove the bad one from the presence of the good ones, the thing that killed the bad one can spread to all the other trees in the orchard and kill them too, and take them from productive with good fruit to dead, bad fruit. So, bringing it back around to there's only one king, and his name's not Donald Trump. His name's Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, the anointed of the Most High. Should we be surprised that Trump has foul language? No, he's had foul language a long time. Should we be surprised at the company that he keeps? No, he's kept questionable company his whole life. And ultimately, I land at this. If we are offended, or choose to be offended, at the foul language that they use on camera, how much more offended would we be at all the things they do when the cameras aren't on? Because these people, the air quote elites of the world, when these cameras aren't on, they're ritualistically, and I use that word with intent, ritualistically, systematically abusing and killing children and minors. We being Caleb House, have gotten close enough to that problem that on several occasions, people from the government have reached out and said, stop. Stop. Don't tug that thread. You don't want the smoke. Don't tug that thread. It goes too deep. It goes all the way to the top. And we said, yeah, we're not stopping. Thanks for the heads up, though. These influence campaigns, coercion campaigns, compromise campaigns. Everybody's familiar with Epstein and Diddy and all that, but there's 100 Epsteins. There's 100 Diddys, maybe 1,000. In every sector, in every corner of industry, there's someone or someone's running influence and compromise campaigns in order to have leverage over other people, to get those people, be they politicians or business leaders or world leaders or whatever, to have leverage over those people so that those people will operate in the best interests of the air quote elite rather than the best interests of themselves or the people they've been duly elected to represent. That is a different problem, very similar, but different problem. That's where you get into ritualistic abuse, satanic ritual abuse, SRA, SRI. It's very, very bad. Told someone yesterday who's thinking about coming on board Caleb House, I said, you need to understand something. Number one, don't come here unless you're called by the Spirit. If the spirit of Yahweh Elohim, the Lord our God, is not telling you to come here, do not participate. But if it is, you've only got two choices, obedience or disobedience. And just so you know, there's nobody here who's from here. Okay, we've all been called by the Spirit to do what we're doing. Number two, you got to understand that Ephesians 6 is not metaphorical, theoretical, make-believe. We fight not against flesh and blood, but against nations and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, put on the whole armor of Elohim. That's not a convoluted concept. Heck yeah, let me see that thing. I'll talk about that next. Praise the Father. Mwah. Okay. It's not a make-believe construct. We do fight against flesh and blood, and nations and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. And aside from the leverage campaigns, there's cartel level, systematized, organized crime level, farming of human beings. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, don't ever let your kid run away. Please, never let your kid run away. If they spend 72 hours as a runaway, they have a 1 in 3 chance of being trafficked. So I don't care how bad it is, never let them run away, okay? Well, they're going to learn a couple lessons and they'll be humbled when they come back. No, they might never come back. They got a 1 in 3 chance of being trafficked. What does that look like? They run away. They're on the street. They have no food. They have no covering. They have no shelter. Somebody sees them run away. And either that person is a good person and brings them to the authorities or back to mom and dad, or is a bad person and brings them to a place like a hotel room. And now that person, over the next week or so, will introduce the child to sex work and to narcotics. And within 2 weeks, we have a drug addict who has been manipulated to believe that in order to show love to her or his new pimp, they have to sell their body because the pimp plays poor. I have no money, but I do have a friend. Listen, babe, I love you so much. If you could just spend an hour with my friend, he's going to give us $500. We need that $500. I got to pay for this hotel room. I got to get gas for the car. I need a new radiator for the car. You know, we're barely getting by. I love you so much. I hate to ask you, but will you do this for me? You mean the world to me. You're my everything, blah, blah, blah. Within a month, they are doing this. The child is doing this 2 to 8, sometimes 10 times a day. Well, once they're now completely hooked and comfortable with selling their body, a child is then moved. This is at the cartel level. Then moved. What happens? They become breeding stock. And the child will get pregnant and produce another child. The next child is born into sex slavery, completely off the books. Nobody knows that they exist. And from day one, that baby is abused by really sick, evil people. Spiritual wickedness. When the first child of breeding age, not of legal, moral, ethical age, but of biological breeding age, is used up, they are then dispatched and their organs are harvested to be sold on the black market. And from a cartel standpoint, the inventory remains the same because they got at least one more child in the human puppy mill out of the kid that ran away. And our elites, our air quote leadership, at a minimum know about this, and some of them dare I say many of them, are complicit in it. And that is the broad brushstrokes of a very deep and dark industry that makes me want to scream four-letter words, and on occasion I do. Sometimes with the camera on, sometimes with the camera off. So it does not surprise me that our air quote leaders say bad words and use common language and are unclean and produce bad fruit, because the things that they are involved in when the camera isn't on, there are not words for how much worse those activities are than the language that they use when the camera's rolling. And I am not saying one way or the other that Trump is or isn't involved in it, but I am saying that there are absolutely people in leadership positions all around the world that are. Which goes back to the fruit tree. If you have a good tree that produces good fruit, then on occasion, when it comes time to harvest, yeah, 3 of my peaches are rotten, but I got 97 good to great ones. That's a good tree. When you come to harvest, and I've only got 3 good peaches on this tree, and 97 of them are rotten, that's a bad tree. Which is why Messiah tells us, you will know them by their fruits. What do they do? What do they produce? And I'll leave it to you to decide what a good tree is, what a bad tree is. Because hopefully you are indwelt by the Spirit of the Most High, and therefore have wisdom and discernment that comes from the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. So, Texas Sheep Lady said, results are what count. Yep. That's why Messiah says, behold, I come swiftly to reward each man according to his works. Because the works are proof of belief. And people argue sanctification by works, which is ridiculous. By grace we are saved, lest any man should boast. I'm sorry, salvation by works, they argue. By grace through faith we are saved, lest any man should boast. But what most people miss is sanctification. And it's doing the work that gets you from apprentice to master, regardless of whether or not you have the intent, the heart condition, to be a master of your craft. It's doing the work, it's the reps and sets, the repetition, and the learning, and the knowledge, and the context, and the dwell time that makes you a master. The apprentice is still on the job site. There are people, like, if you think of the kingdom of Elohim, the kingdom of heaven, as a job site, there are myriad apprentices. There's some journeymen. There's only one master. And we should all just be trying to learn from him and be like him. So, from Newsweek, shifting gears. China responds to Trump's cryptic post about Iran oil. China has responded to President Donald Trump's cryptic post about its purchases of Iranian oil, saying it would prioritize its national interests. Trump, having brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, posted a Truth Social that China could continue purchasing Iranian oil and may also buy it from the U.S. It cut across a long-running American policy of deterring Iranian oil exports through sanctions to weaken the Tehran regime's Tehran, the capital of Iran, most important source of revenue. The U.S. has recently sanctioned Chinese teapot refineries for processing Iranian oil. Quote, China will take legitimate measures to safeguard its energy security based on its own national interests, Gao Guo Jikun, a spokesman for Chinese Foreign Ministry, said at a press briefing on Wednesday, 25 June, in response to a question about the post. I'm really bad at pronouncing Asian names. I think you guys know that by now. I'm a white guy from Oklahoma. Even when I try really hard to pronounce those names, it don't work. Trump posted on Tuesday that, quote, China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the U.S. also. It was my great honor to make this happen. Now, behind the scenes, why all of a sudden the flip-flop on China buying Iranian oil? A couple of reasons. One is the Strait of Hormuz, vital strategic shipping route through which 20% of global oil and gas trade passes. Iran had talked about closing the Strait of Hormuz in its ongoing war with the nation state of Israel. And so Iran gets get a little tip of the hat here. Hey, you guys, instead of closing the Strait of Hormuz, hear me out. What if you sell even more oil to China, which your national GDP is heavily reliant upon? Cool. Now, what does China get out of the deal? They get more cheap oil, but why? Because very quietly, behind the scenes, China, quote, China calls on the international community to step up effort to promote de-escalation of the conflict, Israel-Iran conflict, and prevent a regional turmoil from having a greater impact on global economic growth. That's Diplo speak for this concept that when Trump authorized the bombing of the Fordo nuclear facility and Isfahan and Natanz in Iran, you know, the B-2 bombers flew 32, 36 hours straight, depending on who you ask, hit those targets, and they blew up the tunnels to Fordo, etc., etc. When that happened, well, there's now a DIA whistleblower who is claiming, Defense Intelligence Agencies, kind of like the DoD version of the CIA, one of the things that they do are battle damage assessments, okay? There's a low confidence report that was labeled TSSCI, top secret, sensitive compartmentalized information, that was leaked to the New York Times. So whoever that person was needs way more than a slap on the wrist. And in that low confidence report that's being reported by CNN and New York Times and others as if it's the golden standard of intelligence, which it's not, that DIA report, their battle damage assessment was that Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz, these three nuclear facilities, Iranian nuclear facilities, were barely impacted. Barely. And that Iran's thousands, dozens of thousands of thing that you use, oh gosh, the word's gone, centrifuges. I was like, I had a mental image of a helicopter, and I'm like, that's not it. It does spin though. What's that word? Centrifuges. That their centrifuges are fine. Now define fine, because if they wobble even a little bit, they will wear out and break, which is how the Stuxnet virus on the Siemens PLC's programmable logic controllers, in his Israeli developed virus, delayed Iran's nuclear program a decade ago by causing plus or minus 0.5 of a percentage variation in the speed of the centrifuges to wear out the bearings on which the centrifuge spins. Very diabolical, very smart. So you don't want the centrifuges to wobble or they will wear out. So it's like, yeah, we dropped a bunch of bombs on these things that probably wobbled. So to what extent are they actually, they might look externally, physically fine, but the centrifuges are probably no good anymore. We don't know. We don't know. It's going to take a lot more development of intel on the ground in order to figure that out. The power lines, because all this runs on electricity, the power lines into Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz have all been like blown to smithereens. Did they have backup generation? Well, I think you'd be dumb to not have backup generation. However, a facility of that size, you're talking like each one needs its own dedicated nuclear plant or coal plant, something considerable. 1,500 megawatts, 2,500 megawatt plant, like a 2.5 kilowatt plant, or gigawatt plant rather. A significant amount of power, like enough to run, I don't know, your city, okay? And there's no evidence of them, each of these facilities having that. So the leaked DIA report said that it's, you know, the setback here is not decades for the Iranian nuclear program. The setback here is weeks to months. Only time will tell. But in the meanwhile, why is China getting more Iranian oil? China's getting more Iranian oil because behind closed doors, China allegedly is encouraging Iran, hey, maybe you come off of this nuclear stuff real quick. Maybe you stop trying to enrich uranium past the point of viability for producing electricity and towards the viability of creating nuclear weapons. We'll see. Do I care? I care only to the extent that as long as warheads aren't falling on anybody's foreheads, I'm good with it. Cool. Shifting gears again. Real brief. Thank you, Striker Cade. Thank you. We're done with complaining about volume. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a YouTube issue that's affecting dozens, hundreds, thousands of channels, not just mine. The gain is all the way up on my side. I can't make it go any louder. Can't do it. I'll also have you know that on my end, on my rectangle of death, my existential crisis rectangle, I review this content after it's produced. One of the things is for volume. And so I'll listen to it on my phone or on earbuds and go, yeah, it's fun, it's good. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying. Now, I want to clarify before I change the backdrop here on the screen. I have absolutely zero professional relationship with this company. Zero. I earned $0 by telling you this, okay? This is not a paid ad. This is none of that. However, I would be happy to be compensated with pallets of protein chips. Keep your money, but if you want to send me wild protein chips, if anybody from you is listening, Dudley, if you're grabbing this right now and you're going to send it to them, I would take a pallet or more of wild protein chips because these are delicious. I got a 12-pack of these, I don't know, recently. I usually eat the Quest protein chips, which are also pretty dang good. And then we were at church a week or two ago, and Brother Jody was like, hey man, try this. I'm like, I'm good, I don't need to eat. And he's like, no, try one of these. I was like, okay. So I did, and it was the salt and vinegar ones. I was like, oh my God, these are amazing. So I bought a 12-pack of these things from Jeff Bezos. Apparently they're also available at Target. And they're amazing. They're awesome. Really good. They're made with chicken breast, egg whites, and chicken bone broth. This is the buffalo flavor. We tried I've tried thus far the sea salt, the barbecue, the salt and vinegar, the buffalo, and the chicken and waffles. Let me tell you, the chicken and waffles took us all by surprise yesterday. I'm getting nods from the line over here, the guys on the line packing first aid kits right now. These are so good. And so I'm not saying, like, if you're not trying to increase your protein intake and drop your carbohydrate intake, like, you might not be super impressed by these. But for somebody that is, you know, whether you're keto or carnivore or whatever you're doing OMAD, whatever you're doing, these totally scratch the itch for, like, I just want a sack of potato chips right now. Yep. 100% natural chicken, native tapioca starch, high oleic espresso pressed sunflower oil, egg whites, chicken bone broth, cayenne pepper, vinegar, paprika, sea salt, spices, citric acid, maltodextrin, yeast extract, natural flavors, sodium citrate, salt, and vinegar. Yeah. Distributed by Wild Brands out of Nashville, Tennessee. Wildbrands.com. I don't know, man. I'm not saying you should buy these. I'm saying if you're trying to up your protein intake and want your carbohydrate intake, completely unpaid, no professional relationship whatsoever. Shout out to Wild Protein Chips. These are delicious. They're just delicious. Chicken waffle, Rebecca. I'm telling you, Rebecca, in the chat, they're so good. I was amazed. I was like, I think I'm going to eat this 12-pack of chips right now. So, just bringing that to you. You know, if you like it, put it in your pipe and smoke it. If you don't like it, all right, that's fine. You don't have to like it. Let's shift gears again. RefugeMedical.com. Promo code Bear Nation. Hey, what does Bear Nation do?
10% off.
10% off your whole order. All of it, right?
Yeah.
All of it. Hey, Mike, come here a minute. Come here a minute.
Okay.
Okay, come over on this side. So, you said somebody emailed yesterday and was like, hey, how come you're not teaching IVs during the wilderness and medicine class?
Well, he said, why is it only a flush in there? But more or less, yeah.
Why are we not teaching IVs during the wilderness and
Because
medicine class?
all those students in that class most likely don't have letters after the name, and we're not authorized to teach that skill technically. It's invasive.
Yeah, it's also not part of the comprehensive curriculum.
Correct.
So it's not like we're skipping over it.
Correct.
Right. So it's what, EMTA?
Yeah, A and above.
A and above.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
So,
well, some systems have a basic with an IV add-on,
right.
depending on the municipality, but for the most part, it's advanced and paramedic.
Right. So it's professional medical services.
Correct.
Got it. So doesn't mean you don't need to know how to run an IV. Thank you.
Oh, yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Been building our prolonged field care curriculum, which is interesting. It's kind of like the DoD side of wilderness medicine. And wilderness medicine is defined as any pre-hospital care that takes place more than 1 hour from definitive medical care. 1 hour? Like, that's most of us if you're living rurally. So I think we tend to think of wilderness medicine as like, yeah, when you're out in Moab, you're doing Jeep stuff. Yeah, then I got to know how to do wilderness medicine. It's like, no, if you're an hour from the hospital or more, that's wilderness medicine. And so that class is upcoming. It's the end of August. If you're coming to class in the end of August, I cannot stress enough, you need to start your physical training now, carry your load out now, and you need to start your acclimatization. You need to start acclimating now, because it's going to be somewhere in the range of heat index 118 to 124 during August. Now, a lot of y'all are hearing that and going, oh, why would I pay money to come to Oklahoma in August and potentially die of heat stroke with Refuge Medical? That sounds terrible. The answer to that is because that's the most challenging climate that we have throughout the year here. And so if you can do it in that, you can do it. And why are we teaching wilderness medicine in the field? Because that's where you would use it. I could teach you wilderness medicine via Zoom call, and we could check all the boxes on the curriculum. But you're probably not going to be using those medical skills seated at your desk in the office. Maybe, but it's not wilderness medicine without the wilderness, is my point. It's the same reason when you come to class, if you come to any of these classes here, we run scenarios. You got $100 off your order, applied discount, and go to checkout? Yes, please. That's a crazy pop-up. I've never seen that before. Looking at my wife, wondering what's going on over here. It's behind my head. If you're looking at the screen here, if I move my head up here, see it's in the bottom right corner. You got $100 off your order. I need to have a conversation. That's interesting. Anyway, so all these other classes, we train them. We make you run scenarios, because if you don't run scenarios, it doesn't stick. That's the practical application, right? So in any event, hit the website, refugemedical.com. If you have any questions, you can go over here to the Contact Us tab. And the first thing, this is a cool pic. This is from an essential responder class during the force on force portion, where the team had to fight us. You'll note on their belt, these are all bare minimum pouches here. You know, we sell the bare minimum kit. These are bare minimum pouches that the students are using to carry their med gear during this portion. Note the chest rigs, the rifles, the whole nine. These bare minimum pouches have been used dozens of times in class, and there's nothing wrong with them. Nothing. Like, they're fun. We wash them with a hose afterwards to get the mud and the fake blood off of them. There's nothing wrong with them. So, like, when I say we test our stuff, we pressure test our stuff, this is part of what I'm talking about. It's like, how many 2-day TAC Med classes can I get out of this one kit? And the answer is like dozens, at least.
Don't forget, you can do the affirm option for the expense.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you want to come to class and you need to break the cost of class into payments, you can use you can break it into payments right there at checkout on the website using Affirm, or you can customer service here, call the store, call this phone number right here, or admin@refugemedical.com. You can email us, or you can use this contact form right here. We are more than happy to work with you on that. We've done this for a bunch of students in the past. We're happy to continue to do it. So if you need to break the cost to come to class into pieces, we can do that for you. And if we go back to the main page right here, this summer adventure bundle, $70 off the adventure kit, and a free burn dressing set, and a free seat at the remote responder virtual workshop. It's like $230 in savings if you bundle this up. So would definitely encourage you to take a look at that. I think we're also promoting BPK's bleeding prevention kits right now. And then there's if we go to the travel fac over here, all these different kits made in America, guaranteed forever, 155 lives saved to date. My wife did this thing yesterday. Look at this. You get $100 off of this right here, this bundle, travel fac, plus this jumpstart box, which we have an international truck, 45,000 pound GVW truck parked in our parking lot, and the battery was dead on it. You know, diesel engine, Detroit DT 466, blah, blah, blah. This little jump box jumped that thing from a dead battery, no problem. I was blown away. And a rescue me tool. You can bundle all that up and save money if you're into saving money. So that's all at refugemedical.com. Check it out. We really appreciate the Refuge Nation. Tomorrow I'll be live on Refuge's channel tomorrow morning over there. So if you're not subscribed to the Refuge YouTube channel, you know, come on over, man. Hit us on socials, etc. Grindstoneministries.com. Please continue to pray for Grindstone. Those prayers over the whole enterprise are deeply appreciated. Grindstone is right now kind of like in maintenance and recovery mode, have a very, very busy and active spring storm system, spring into early summer storm season. And so right now everything's getting maintained, you know, it's reorganizing everything, reordering to fill, you know, back stock, everything from bar oil to chains for chainsaws to tires on trailers and all that stuff that comes with maintaining readiness for the next time a bad storm hits. And we're also trying to raise money for a kitchen trailer so that we can build a kitchen trailer. Right now we're working out of I think it's a 7x14 enclosed trailer that has kitchen stuff in it. And that has worked thus far, and we're happy to have that, thankful and blessed to have that. It is a logistical challenge though when it comes to feeding, you know, hundreds, thousands of people a day, working out of a 7x14 enclosed trailer that's not a kitchen trailer. And so we're saving towards a semi-sized commercial kitchen, so that we can be even more effective on the ground, feed even more people, from the line workers to the residents who've been displaced, to our own volunteers, to volunteers for other organizations, to church groups to come out to assist. Just, you know, love language. Diesel fuel, hydraulic fluid, chainsaws, and food. Like, these are Grindstone love languages. And so if that's something that you're passionate about, something that you want to pour into, if you're led by the Spirit, you can go here to grindstoneministries.com, hit support Grindstone's mission, and then you can donate now, or you can sign up for the email blast here, or you can go ahead and volunteer. Click this volunteer now. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize with Grindstone is how it's Grindstone Ministries plural, because it's ministries plural because, yes, we are going there to help people who have lost everything, who have been affected by these storms. I mean, if you just look at the debris in the background here, that was Mayfield, Kentucky. That was the fire chief's house in Mayfield, Kentucky. I remember the trunk of this tree. Where did it go? The trunk of that tree. Gosh dang, with the pop-ups, bro. Thanks, YouTube. The trunk of that tree was through there, through the dining room. This was the dining room right here. And there was another organization who was here working on this. And the biggest saw they had a 20-inch bar on it. And I had my steel 066 Magnum 32-inch bar, 8-tooth sprocket, ported and tuned, full chisel, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, hey, let me cut that for you. They're like, it's fine, we got it. This is before any cutting on the tree started, and I was like, nah, not trying to get into a measuring contest with you, but I don't think you got it. Let me cut that for you. So we ended up taking lead on this. And I remember standing in that dining room, cutting that tree with a 32-inch bar and plunge cutting it, and I couldn't get all the way through that portion of the tree with a 32-inch bar of what was just in the dining room. Like, and that's just one tree on one job, Mayfield, Kentucky, all the way back in the day. And so what people don't realize is, yes, we're helping these people, and it's an honor and a blessing to help these people, to load up our equipment and our saws and go and be the hands and feet of the Most High. That's one half of the ministry. The other half of the ministry that people don't realize is how much help being a helper does for you, because you as the volunteer are also being ministered to. And it's a life-changing event, both for the victims of the storms, but also for the people who come to volunteer. And we hear from so many people, like, this changed my life. Like, I want to do every one of these deployments with you. Please let me come back and help. Please, like, I have to continue to be a part of this. And it's just, it's amazing to see how the Father has blessed this and poured into us. I think that was me. I don't even remember cutting that tree. Poured into us so that we can pour into others. There's Bobo there. Yeah, that's me. I have no recollection whatsoever of doing that. But apparently I did. That's me in a tree. Okay. So you can find more at grindstoneministries.com if you want to come and play. Which leads us again to calebhouse.org, caleb with a K.org. It is right now, we're in the midst of our 3rd annual restoration fundraiser, which means we have donor matching going on right now. And the goal is to generate $300K by July 20th, because that will be matched. And why $300K? Because that allows us to build another care house. Why a care house? Because we don't just rescue people, we put them back together again. And we put them back together again because we have to break the generational curses of the learned behavior that they were subjected to as innocent victims, and this ritualistic, systematic abuse, that they don't become part of the problem in the future. And so we have to restore that kid for myriad reasons. 1, for them. 2, for the kingdom. 3, because statistically, each perpetrator is responsible for 82 offenses. 82, that's the math. And so talk about force multiplication. If we can restore one victim, for each one we restore, that's 82 that we will never have to, okay? And so that's why restoration fundraiser, because that builds another house, and that gets 10 more kids out of sex slavery and into the hands of the Most High so that they can be put back together again. That's 820 kids down the road that we don't have to restore. And the first Caleb house with 10 care houses on it has the impact of restoring about, at max capacity at any one time, 60 kids at a time. Okay, do the math on that. You're talking thousands of victims that never were, because of the breaking of generational curses, because of intercession. And so it's really important. It's really, really, really important. Forsake not the widow and the orphan, and raise these kiddos up in the way that they should go, so they do not depart from it when they are older. And so, if that's something you'd like to be a part of, if the Spirit is convicting you to be a part of this, you can visit us at calebhouse.org, Caleb with a K.org. And that is the show for today. I love you guys and girls. I appreciate you guys and girls. May the Father make His face to shine upon you today. May you experience His peace, His shalom today. In Yeshua's name, amen. And I will see you when I see you. Shalom, everyone.
Talk about the gift bag.